And we're recording. Lamonte Goode, thanks for coming on Fitness and Consciousness.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. It's a pleasure and it's an honor. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I was looking through Instagram and I saw your post, and your name on Instagram is CyberYoga.
Yes.
And I saw a lot of what people would recognize as yoga, but also like dance, and you're doing stuff with partners, males and females. And
Yeah.
so I guess, and I just found out about you right before I sent you the invitation, and I was just impressed. Like it was like artistic. I mean, there was like yoga stuff all over Instagram, of course, but yours was really artistic, and I thought this
Thank you.
guy must have a story to tell. So
Oh
that's
man, thank you.
that's why I asked you to be on. So let's start like current day, and then let's go back and get your background. So
Yeah.
what is it that you're doing now? You're blending yoga and dance. What is it that you're doing?
Yeah. So basically, CyberYoga is a fusion. It's a fusion-based dance that I created in 2013. 20 years in experience in different hybrids of training. The number one foundation for CyberYoga was breakdancing. Then it was acrobatics, and finally yoga. And I really focused on creating, integrating forms of dance with movement. So a little bit of contemporary and modern, and just a fusion. So I'm a mover. So basically, CyberYoga is a fusion-based practice, and it's cyber is actually an acronym. So it's calisthenics, yoga, breaking, evolution, revolution. Yoga is the base that binds it all together. It's the new age futuristic spiritual practice that I've created. I feel like us as humans are like, biomechanical machines. So we're spiritual machines, and I wanted to integrate the beauty of yoga and spirituality, but like futuristic movement, and blending them together for the 21st century.
Very cool. So you said spiritual machines.
Yes.
Why do you put it like that?
Because we are biomechanical machines, but I feel like it's really, it's really important to integrate the spirituality in our movement, whether it's through dance or through fitness or even whatever it is. I feel like spirituality is a huge component in our life, and I feel like it's needed as far as like conscious movement. Just integrating all your forms of practice, but then having the spirituality as a base that kind of keeps everything balanced out. So that's my take on it. And plus, I'm a fan of like science fiction and like techie movies. So I'm a fan of like The Matrix and The Terminator. So just I don't know, like most of those films really inspired my mindset as far as like my movement and the ideas and the concepts behind what's possible, and no limitations, kind of like challenging the mold and pushing past boundaries, and just challenge yourself like many ways, mentally, physically, and spiritually. So that's how I came up with CyberYoga.
I'm going to hit pause for just a second.
Okay.
Okay, we're back on. Yeah, I have a window air conditioner, and it was just kind of loud, so
no problem.
Getting picked up, and I could hear you clear. So yeah, you can really see the like more like the spiritual stuff in the way that you do things. I mean, I've seen like your videos, and even just like the still pictures. It's like I was saying before, there's just more to it. So how did you get started in this? Like where did you grow up, and what got you into all this? You said you started CyberYoga in 2013.
Yeah.
So what about before that? How old are you now?
I'm 42.
Oh, okay.
42. So I started breakdancing in '96. When I was younger, I was really fascinated by like superhero films, martial arts films. I was really inspired by like superheroes and what's possible. So I was very much in like learning how to do backflips and like kung fu and all these amazing concepts in film. And at the time, my parents didn't have money to put me into any kind of like studios, as far as like martial arts or whatever. So fast forward into high school, I was really into like house dancing and hip hop dancing. That was prevalent back in that time. And then I remember seeing some kids in the field doing flips, like back flips and like front flips. So I really wanted to learn that. So I didn't have any formal training or skills at all whatsoever, but someone kind of coached me. And I, I remember doing my first backflip. It was like a round off backflip. And someone was like, you know what, just do this move and just do that and see what happens. So my first attempt for the backflip was like kind of scary, but I did a round off and I did a backflip and I landed on my knees. I was like, well, okay, you know what? It's possible. Let me do it again.
Yeah.
So I ran, I did a round off and I landed on my feet and I was like, oh shit, like that's an epiphany. I was like, wow, anything is possible if you put your mind to it. So fast forward another 10 years, in junior high, I was still doing that, dancing and practicing and training. It wasn't until after high school when my parents had moved to Orange County. And one day I went to a mall and there was these Asian kids breakdancing in the center. You know, it was a bunch of kids and they're battling each other, you know, they're like breakdancing. And to me, I was like fascinated by the concept of them coming together and practicing all these amazing moves that I've never seen before, besides, you know, watching Beat Street and breaking. So I was really admired by that. And I was watching them and I was like, hey, you know, come in, you know, and you know, join us in practice to see what happens. So I went in there, you know, tried a couple tricks, and then I did one move and they're like, oh my God, hey, you know, that's great. You know, it's good stuff. And that kind of gave me like motivation to push. So since that day I was hooked. I was like, you know what, this is what I want to do. I want to do breakdancing. And I don't know how, somehow, some way I'm going to find out how to find other breakdancers in my city, in my town, and just see what happens. So law of attraction, synchronicity, I find a breakdance crew at a church. And I was like, wow, this is it. And so I found a crew, I found some friends, and we kept training from there. And that led me to find the more advanced masters of breakdancing at that time. So that's when I started to train around these other masters. So fast forward of like, you know, 10 years of breakdancing, and, you know, blood, sweat, and tears, and finding moves and finding yourself and self-discipline and mastery. I got kind of bored of the concept of breaking because I felt like I needed something else. And it wasn't until I came across this Cirque du Soleil video. I think it was Berkai. And these two amazing German hand balancers, they're just amazing. I was blown away by the fact that, you know, they could balance on one arm and they're super strong. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, I mean, how would it be if I can integrate that concept into my practice? And so I was really fascinated by that. You know, I wanted to find a circus coach at the time. So happened to be that my girlfriend from Europe, from Prague, I was in Prague at the time. One of her coaches magically happened to be a Cirque du Soleil hand balance coach, the teacher. Mm. So like I said before, law of attraction, synchronicity, I basically found out what I needed to find out to, like, you know, go to the next level. So the teacher taught me one concept, you know, how to do a handstand, how to do it properly, how to hold a one-arm handstand. And so I took that concept and then I ran away with it. Years go by and I'm practicing every day, and I master somewhat of the concept of the hand balancing. Okay. And I integrated that into my, basically fused that with my breakdance practice. So it was more of like a hybrid practice. So years go by from that, you know, it's great. I'm finding new concepts, more ideas, more self-discipline, and just adding to my skill set. But even then, I felt there was something missing and something lacking. I felt like I wasn't honoring my body. I was just really training a lot, but just beating myself up and not being conscious about my movement and like how I'm training. And one day I came across this magazine. It was a Lululemon ad, and you know, they were talking about like cigarettes, the drugs, where soda pop is bad for you, cigarettes are bad for you, and then on the second page there was this amazing yogi by the name of Richard Freeman, this older white guy who was super amazing, super flexible. And his age, I was like, wow. I mean, I was just thinking, how can somebody be this age and be this dynamic in his movements? So Hello, you there?
Yeah, you just kind of like clicked off for a second.
Yeah, the
Yeah, you're
phone,
good
one
now.
of the scam calls. So I was really inspired by that, and he was talking about the power of yoga and like all the great benefits of like the spirituality and the flexibility and the focus and the clarity. So I wanted to find a yoga class, and I took my first Bikram class. At that time, it was Bikram, not hot yoga, and I was just amazed by the feeling of the sweating and the flexibility and the mental challenges. So from there, I was hooked, and I started taking yoga classes, bought some DVDs, and that's when I started kind of like fuse everything together. And it wasn't until 2012 is when I actually was focusing on branding this concept. And I went through a crazy breakup and heartbreak and depression for a year. And, I wasn't really training and focusing on my art. But I had to pick myself back up. And then that's when I kind of came up with the concept of cyber yoga, because I felt like I needed to find a new beginning, a new start, a new like inspiration after my depression. And that's when cyber yoga was born, because I put all my heart and energy and soul into my practice, because this is what I needed at the time. And so cyber yoga was born out of like hardship, depression,
Mm.
and I needed something to channel my energy into. And there you go, cyber yoga was born. And then from there, and I just kept on creating more concepts, more ideas. I was getting ideas and concepts and downloads from whatever the ether is giving me, whatever you want to call God, whatever the creator was just giving me downloads of ideas and concepts, how to create new concepts and new forms of movement, poses, ideas. Everything kind of was like coming together. It's like, I don't know, it was crazy, but for me, they're kind of like downloads. I was just getting these ideas 24/7. Um, and then it wasn't until Instagram was around and I put up my first photo, and then from there it was like, it was a sign, hey, you're onto something.
Yeah, that's it's really interesting how things work out. Like you just happen to like say like when the student is ready, the teacher appears,
Exactly.
something like that.
100%.
And
100%.
yeah, I've had
Oh, I also forget to mention that I did have a life coach and a mentor that kind of gave me um, the blue, the blueprint of my mindset, how to see the invisible, make things impossible, the possible. So I did have like my guru, like my life coach. He was there to kind of like put me on the put me in the right mindset and the right track. So he was kind of like my father figure. Um, so he's the one that taught me like the mentality of like how to, focus on, being present and love and peace and positivity, and mastering yourself and taking yourself to the next level in many spectrums, mentally, physically, and spiritually, on top of the physical practice of yoga. So huge props to him and shout outs to him, because he's the one that kind of helped me along my journey.
And how did you find him? Like, what's his background? Is he like a yogi or a
No,
psychologist kind of guy, or?
he's a guy that, you know he's the off grid type of guy. So he doesn't believe in cell phones and technology. He likes to stay off the grid. Um, I was working a job in Vegas at the time with some other breakdancer friends, and we were performing for an artist called Nelly at the time. And he was one of the photographers for Nelly. And he was talking to me about how back in their time, back in the 80s, they were dreaming about the breakdance movements that we were doing that day. And they're like, wow, breakdancing has evolved so much, and you guys are doing what we were thinking about back in the 80s. And so we sparked conversation, kind of just, hit it off really well. And then one day he had got my contact, and we just kept talking. And then I knew there was something about him, because the way he was talking to me was, it was in a way I've never heard anybody speak to anybody. And so I knew that he was like genius next level. He was like my guru from that day, and his mindset kind of just captivated me. And from there, that's when we just built that the connection and the bond. and I stayed in touch with him, and he kind of like schooled me on life and on the other things that, you know, other things that this system doesn't talk about and teach the public. So it was that kind of give me that mindset of how to think past boundaries and borders. So huge props to him.
What things that are not taught to the, how'd you put it, like not taught to the public? How was it?
Yeah. You know, kind of per se, like there's just more concepts about like seeing the invisible, you know, when you see the invisible, you know, that things are possible. And teaching you how to think in frames of mind and just different modes of thinking that led to me doing more research into other things about life and spirituality and sacred geometry and just a lot of other things that that the society doesn't talk about or teach. Mm-hmm. And so that got my mind going and thinking differently and different concepts, that there's more to this matrix than what we see and know. And so just that concept that he taught me how to think a certain way. And so he gave me the blueprint of this concept of the mental thinking. Yeah. And so so from that led to more research and studying about different teachers and authors and so on. So that's how that worked.
Yeah, it seems like it's working out for you really well. So you're doing different performances. You're still doing, like you said, you're having like a show tonight. So you asked, like, you know, do the podcast earlier, and so like what do your shows look like now? Are they is it your own thing, or you're doing somebody's thing, or what's going on?
Yeah, it's a hybrid. So I do TV and film as well. So I do movies and commercials on top of that. I have a solo act that I do. So I have a solo performance that I perform for different company shows, theaters, industrials, or for live events. I do that, and I dance with different dance companies, and I'm with different companies that hire out talent to dance for kids and to inspire the youth and to motivate and inspire people. So pretty much like a combination of all that is what I do. And then I teach workshops and I do private lessons and all that. And so I'm fairly busy with performance and dance.
Yeah. So do you travel all around? You talked about Prague, and so you're going to, were you just there with your girl at the time, or you're doing shows there also? Are you traveling like all over the world? You mentioned Vegas, and you're in Hollywood now, right? You see like West Hollywood.
Yes, it's Hollywood. Yeah, at the time, my girlfriend, she was from Prague, so I basically went to go visit her, you know, because we're in love with each other. So I went to go visit Europe, go see her, and then so happened to be one of her coaches was a handsome teacher, and I was like, wow, it was like everything was in alignment, like, you know, everything was like interconnected that led me to where I am now today. And so everything happened for a specific reason to set me up for now speaking with you. So as far as like performances, I'm all over the place. I perform all over, where it's Vegas, stage, theater for kids, TV and film, movies, commercials, you name it, I'm there. And so now I'm considered Instagram influencer. So I have a sponsor, and I do content creation with them, for them. I work with different brands, and I collaborate with other artists and other influencers to create inspiring content. And so, so my work it's everywhere and nowhere, but it's CyberYoga. So I'm in the digital age. So I'm in cyberspace. So I'm literally everywhere. And then I'm here in the physical self as well. So.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. So so if you're on Instagram, you're all over the world. People in
literally,
this
cyberspace.
This podcast has been heard. It just started in February, and it's over like 50 some countries. And it just kind of blows my mind when I look at the map. And like I was like joking around with my girl. I was like, I showed her. I took a picture of the map where all the countries. But there was like nothing in Africa, and I was like, I'm not a big deal in Africa yet, though. And then like
it will.
the next day I looked and there was like 2 listeners in South Africa, and I was like,
what?
Yeah. So it was just like everywhere. And that was just like the next day I was just like kind of, joking around with her because it was in like all these other countries. So I wasn't like complaining or anything, but it's just amazing how it spreads and how one person like sharing it and then someone else sharing it.
Yeah.
And then it's everywhere. It's like, look what this guy can do. Check out CyberYoga. Look, this Lamonte guy, man, he's got his own style, his own thing. It's different.
Yeah.
And it's not just like the Warrior 2 and the sunset that we can see. Like Instagram and find one in a minute.
Yeah.
And that's cool too. I like that.
Yeah. Of course it's great. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Of course it's great, but it's good to have a foundation and to kind of build from there. So I'm a firm believer in like evolution, how you said it, like now you're global, 10 years ago, that wasn't a reality, now it's like, technology is incredible. There's so many things that you can do, so many more people that you can reach now because of social media and because of technology. So I think it's a beautiful thing. So
I saw you were doing, like, when I was like first saw your Instagram, and like I see you doing some different different like poses with like some
different people,
males or females, and like, are these you have like this core group that you work with, or is like one of them like does your girlfriend now, or are you married, or you're
married?
Is she in on this also, or?
Well, no, actually she's a dancer, school teacher, and she's training in Kundalini now. As far as everybody else, I have a lot of friends that are dancers, and I believe in collaboration and unity, showing that CyberYoga can be compatible with anybody and everybody, whether it's male, female, fat, skinny, tall. It doesn't matter. I feel like to share in art with everybody is a beautiful thing, that we're all one collective. And so there is no borderline, there is no race. I feel like we're all human. And so I feel like I want to showcase my art and show the world that, the integration is beautiful, and, we're all one, and we're all one unit. So I collaborate with anybody to create work that's going to inspire people and invoke a thought process about what's possible when people come together,
Yeah. So is there a different approach? Like if you're like doing like the partner, like hand balancing kinds of stuff, and like it's like the circus, like you'll have
hand to hand,
the strong man, and then somebody's doing a one arm handstand on the other arm, and is there a difference? Are you doing that kind of stuff too? And like, what's the difference between working with a woman and a man, or is?
Okay. I do a lot of partner stuff as well, but I'm kind of like a rebel and like I'm like a lawbreaker. So I like to create things that haven't been done before. I'm just a fan of just creating something new and challenging what's been, not challenging, but just creating new concepts and new ideas. I could do like hand-to-hand and partner stuff like that, but I really want to create something that's going to invoke the mind, which is something new. And people have different skill sets, so I'm able to work around what somebody is able to do, and we can just create a new foundation based on those concepts. And most of the poses that I do, I call them cyberglyphs. They're like ancient futuristic glyphs that I create, and they're just downloads that I get from whatever the ether, and I use them. So it's kind of like sacred geometry with the body and what's possible. So there's shapes and there's dimensions that have encoded messages within them for those that can read them. So just more about just like creating art with multiple people, whether it's a friend, a dude that I know, a good friend, amazing dancer, or some friend I know, she's like super flexible, or somebody, that doesn't have any flexibility, but they have physical strength. So I'm just able to work around what the person's uh, um, abilities and looks are, and just create something together to just inspire the people and show that, you know what, anybody can be integrated into cyber yoga, and that's the beauty of it, you know.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just about to ask you right before you mentioned, and I knew what you mean by like the use like cyberglyphs. Is that what you said? Uh,
Yeah,
so are you like looking at? So you look at you keep talking about sacred geometry. So like maybe you'll see a shape in some book that's like just lines or something, and it makes some shape. And
yeah.
you think like, oh, I could do that with this person.
Well,
Or I could do it with that person. Or you're looking at like ancient like yoga statues or like
yeah, yeah.
art.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's more like sometimes when I get together with somebody, they're there and I'll just create something on the spot. Sometimes I'll have a concept and idea that I want to do with somebody, but it's all limited based on their physical abilities or the aesthetic. But usually on the spot, you know what, I could just come up with an idea. I can foresee something. I can create something and feel. I can feel when something is right, and then I'll look at the image and find a way to do it. Maybe like 15 different ways or 15 different dimensions. So once I see a concept, I can just build around it. So that's the way I look at their, like, you know, their geometric puzzles. So just finding ways to like integrate and lock together. And so yeah, yeah, the process is fun because I'm thinking all, like I'm literally thinking like 20% about, you know, ideas and concepts, you know, with like different shapes and different people and different dimensions. So I'm always thinking about what's possible and what to create. So right now I'm working with a partner, and we're working on a lot of amazing stuff that I, you know, can't wait to share. But yeah, just more ideas, more concepts, and building and working
So,
together.
so when you get together with someone, do you just like set up a camera that records everything you do, and you're just playing around and you're
Yeah,
working on stuff, and then you can like go back and like, oh, we could actually went this way with that.
exactly. Yes,
Like I
yes.
heard, you know, you hear like if you're going to be recording with some musician and you're the producer, you need to record the whole thing, not just when
Hmm.
they're ready, because they might uh, stumble upon some great riff that
Hmm.
if you're like, oh, can you play that riff again? What riff? That they don't remember, but
Yeah,
hey,
yeah,
that one. Oh, yeah, that is cool. So I
yeah.
was just in my mind seeing you creating with someone else that might be kind of like-minded or different than you like accent, or you uh, can like uh, make each other better or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
you're
You know,
go back to the tape and
yeah, exactly what you said, Ryan. Really, really about I can record some movement and some ideas and concepts, and then I'll study it within a second and be like, okay, well, we can tweak this and do this, and you could do that, and you know, I'll find like 30 different ways to come in another pose and come out of it, and maybe even find a way for it to actually melt and kind of transform together. Oh, I forgot to mention that one of my main inspirations for the movement is a concept of like transformers. You know,
hmm,
like, you know, the 80s cartoon, you know,
yeah,
like Transformers, you know,
mhm,
Optimus Prime and Megatron, all that.
yeah.
So like a lot of those ideas and concepts are really inspired by Transformers as well, because how a machine can turn into something and it transforms into something and then transforms out of it. It's kind of like the same concept with my poses as well. And so I look at it in that sense as like, you know, things can be compartmentalized, um, dissected, and then come back together and fuse together. So it's just, yeah, it's those concepts that I have behind whatever I create. And I just tell this person, hey, put your arm here and do that. But I'm very focused on the precision and the lines and the geometry and the dimensions. Like everything has to be super clean and sharp, because I feel like it's math, and I feel like um, it'll read better with you know with the audience. So that's the concept.
Yeah. Do you do other kinds of training? Because I know some of this, a lot of it is going to take like strength and stability, and you got to be, not
Yes.
shaking while you're hanging on to somebody.
Yeah, exactly. I do.
Are you lifting weights also, or?
Um, I used to lift weights, but now it's just more calisthenics. So it's like, a lot of push-ups, dips. I do parkour free running, not as much as I used to, but I was really into that. Lots of cardio, a lot of breakdance still. I was getting into kickboxing, a little bit of jiu-jitsu, but I feel like, I can't. I feel like it's important to like focus on a couple of things and spread myself out too thin. But yeah, just more of like calisthenics, conditioning, breaking, dancing, gymnastics, a little bit of tricking. So I like everything. I like everything, but I feel like everything helps reinforce each other. And so maybe, this hybrid training is like, for me, is the best because you can do so many different things and make new foundations with the hybrid practice and training. So.
Yeah, I think you can be in a way more creative with less stuff. Like I've organized a couple workshops, and I have another one that we're doing in, I think it'll be late September, where I have like 4 or 5 other instructors, maybe even somewhere around in there. And so like before we had like a guy that does like Ito Portal method and parkour stuff, and then another guy was doing like a lot of like kind of like grip and hand strength stuff, and he brought a bunch of different things to use, and then I was doing like kettlebell stuff, and then I was thinking of this for this next one that I'm planning. I'm having like the same instructors, and I'm adding a couple other ones, and then I just thought, well, instead of me doing kettlebell stuff and bringing kettlebells and have to worry about having all the right sizes for everybody and the weights, and then him bringing stuff, I was like, okay, this one's just going to be body weight stuff. This we can have partners, but no equipment.
Yeah, just yourself.
But we can still have 5 different unique instructors, each teaching their own class, their own way. I have a gymnastics coach that she was a gymnastics coach since I met her in high school. And then, the capoeira guy. So I just like started thinking, okay, no equipment. Now, once I kind of made that decision that we're not going to use any equipment, and then it just like my creativity just going crazy.
It blossoms.
We can do this and this and this and this, and we can still all be different. I'm not going to tell any of them what to do. They're coming up with their own stuff, and I'm just like
so many possibilities, man. And yeah, what you said was perfect, because I really believe that we're the highest technology. Our bodies are the tools. Like I feel like we don't need anything. All we need is our body and a floor and a wall, and just go out there and fucking just create whatever it is. Just create, like just using your mind and your body. What's possible, and just that, man. Just it's like all you need is yourself. At the end of the day, all you need is yourself, your body, and a floor and a wall, and just create. Just fun. There's a billion ways that you can do something, but you got to find it. And so, you have to use this higher intelligence computer and find ways to calculate the dimensions of working out. And, so awesome. Yeah, man, you said it. Yeah. You already know.
Yeah,
you already know
it's amazing what we're capable of, and all these different styles, different like cultures have different ways of doing things. So, have you done capoeira before, or do you like try to steal some moves from capoeira?
Well, what's funny? In the early 90s, I was really inspired by capoeira, and that's what actually invoked my thought process of breaking, because in the early 90s, there was a movie called Only the Strong.
Yeah.
With Mark Dacascos, and I was fascinated by that movie. And there was one scene that I just like, I rewound it like 30 times. Oh, I was like, how did he do this move? How did he do this move? How did he do it? And I remember watching that movie every day religiously. And I was like, I want to start doing that. I want to get into that. But instead I found breakdancing, which was like the next best thing, because, they are actually related because capoeira and kung fu inspired the movement of breakdancing in the Bronx in the early 80s. So it was those things that really, so you know what, those are related, you know, either way, you know, they are related. But yeah, capoeira is what I always wanted to get into, but I didn't find any schools or teachers. But I found breakdancing for sure, and yeah, so now I'm just, you know, I'm into breaking and yoga and calisthenics, and now CyberYoga. So
Yeah. Do you see, like, is there another something that you're wanting to add to it, to what you're
oh
doing,
yeah,
and you don't kind of, you're just like, what's the cutting edge of what you're doing right now?
wow, just integrating. Oh my god, it's insane. Um, there's a lot. It's just a matter of just showcasing it. So there's a lot of things that I haven't shown yet. I'm showing all the very basics and all the basic fundamentals of CyberYoga, but I'm working on um, a fusion of everything, just like integrating all my disciplines and really showcasing like a huge Rubik's Cube puzzle of concepts and ideas and possibilities. Yeah, so I definitely start sharing a lot more of that. But I'm still learning something new all the time. I have like new ideas and concepts that I haven't even put out yet. But I just can't wait to share it. And just the way I engineered CyberYoga is that it's always going to evolve and advance. Like it's never going to be the same forever. And so when I start having teachers and students come in and actually learn the art, it's going to come to a, you know, the levels will be insane, you know, so it's never going to stop, you know, like the possibilities are endless as long as you allow your mind to be open to the possibilities. And yeah, so I'll definitely be sharing, and if I have, you know, have any workshops to definitely teach the concepts and ideas, how to put them all together. But yeah, man, you know, it never stops. Like that's, I mean, for me, the breakdance and the b-boy scene, I feel, is the most advanced because the levels have grown incredibly. In between like 10 years ago, the levels are ridiculous. Like b-boys now are like superhuman. Like they're doing things that you didn't think that was possible. And it's only because there are no limitations in the b-boy mindset. B-boys and breakdancers, they don't believe in like limitations. So it's like, and what helps the scene grow is the competition. You know, it's like, well, you know, if this crew is battling this crew, how can they outdo each other? And this foundation's already set in, but it's like, you can take this concept and then take it to a whole nother level. And so those are the concepts that I use in my practice, that everything is always going to be better and better. How many different ways can I coming out of something? How can it, you know, advance? And then what, you know, what else is possible if I tweak it this way? So it's never going to stop, you know.
What do you do for like injury prevention? Do you have, so I would think that like with a lot of the, like the b-boy stuff, and they're like, I watch a lot of that stuff. It's just crazy. Like it seems like a lot of impact on, like they're landing on their elbow and spinning around on their elbow somehow and doing all sorts of, like, it seems to be like a lot of impact and weird.
Great question.
They're torquing their shoulders.
Yeah, your shoulders. Yeah. Great question. This is where the yoga comes in. This is where the yoga and the conditioning comes in. So I'm really, you know, I'm a huge fan of conditioning and yoga, really honoring your body. So the yoga gave me that concept. At the age of 42, that's why I have zero injuries. I have zero injuries at all. Thank God. Thank God for that. No injuries at all. And it's because I really believe in conditioning, you know, the yoga. So the flexibility, the conditioning of the wrist, eating right, cardio, resting, being mindful, knowing your limits, listening to your body because it's super advanced and super intelligent, listening to your body. This all those elements kind of help me stay afloat. And I have the energy to you know, just constantly train it. Just years and years of knowing how to use your body. You know how to fall, you know how to foresee what's going to happen. So you set yourself up. So I've been, crawling for years, but 20 years of that, like you develop a new sense of awareness with your vehicle. You like, I don't know, it's strange, but you just know how not to fall, and then if you do fall, you know how to brace yourself. So b-boys are, it's, they're basically creating their own templates. It's like they're finding their own ways to work around their injuries, or they're working around what they do. And that itself is like evolution of the art and the dance. It's like they're basically like evolving the human race, because what they're doing mentally and physically, they're like challenging what's been done before and taking it to like new levels and heights. Just those, just that, just being mindful. But that comes with years and years and years of practice and repetition, knowing yourself and knowing your body and doing something over and over. You just like develop another sense of awareness. So
are injuries pretty common with the b-boy?
Yeah, you know what, I would say yes, but that comes with b-boys not being mindful and not being conscious about their bodies.
Like wrist and shoulder.
Oh yeah, wrist, shoulders, knees, neck. I mean, for me, my major issue when I was younger was the wrist, because back in the day I was doing flares, but I wasn't as flexible. I wasn't as conscious about, warming up my wrists, warming up my shoulders, working on my splits, breathing, eating right, resting. I wasn't conscious about my training at the time. And, years later, I've actually, created my own curriculum based around, how to, condition and be injury free. And I teach that in my classes. But most b-boys that aren't conscious now, oh yeah, they're beat up, man. They're fucked up. Like, elbows are shot, their, knees are shot, they're not eating right. And so I kind of help, educate them on, hey, you know what, this is what you need to do to promote longevity in your practice. And so it's kind of like a learning process, like you just learn, through injuries, what to do, what not to do, how to prevent them, how to cure them, and all that. So it's just the process. Yeah. What about you? Do you have any injuries in your training at all, or are there common injuries? And
Well, I do martial arts and kettlebell stuff, and I had like this weird knee injury. So a lot of like jujitsu guys, they end up with
bad knees, right?
Yeah, well, and like back problems, and like if like when I'm like teaching like a class, and if we're doing like a hard sparring, I'll usually like say like no leg locks, or if you're in a position to go for the leg lock, you just like kind of like grab it and just like say, oh, leg lock, and then let go.
Okay.
Because if you have my leg and you're like going for a lock, and I'm fighting it pretty good, and then you move like just right or just wrong, however you want to think of it, then like the difference between me getting out of it or being okay and the difference between me needing a knee surgery is just
yeah, man, it's scary, man. Yeah, it's scary. Yeah, I have a lot of friends that do jiu-jitsu, and they tell me about the shoulder injuries and their knees, like, someone just being like super aggressive and not being mindful, and there goes your shoulder. Or someone gets extra happy and hype or something, and they just tweak your knee or something. So yeah, it's scary. It's scary. But I think if you focus on conditioning your shoulders and your knees and focus on the flexibility, I feel like that'll prevent some injuries. I feel like it would help a little bit more than just not conditioning.
Yeah, and kind of the way I see it, I was like thinking of like how I want to like teach it, and think like this. My jiu-jitsu teacher would say like, pick the horse that will get you home. He teaches like traditional Japanese judo,
nice,
kendo, aido, like real traditional samurai arts, and he's like, pick the horse that will get you home. So it's like, okay, well, I like sparring, I like putting the gloves on and kickboxing stuff, but how many times do I want to get punched in the head by somebody that's really good at punching people in the head?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't want to do that anymore. So I can go with my buddy Blake, he outweighs me by 80 pounds. he's taller than me, and his technique is a lot better than mine. But I can go and I can mix it up with him because I know that he's advanced enough to not hurt me. He could if he wanted to, or like something bad could happen. But we can get rough without it being too much. Where if I was just going with like somebody that's just kind of like wild, like the white belt, I'd rather fight. I think it's safer for me to fight a black belt than it is a white belt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
White belt up.
Yeah.
But like, what if he does something weird and I'm taking it easy, and all of a sudden he does something weird, and then he pops my shoulder, he punches me real hard.
Exactly.
But like, I was going to ask you, like, what your like, is it easy like to describe like what kind of conditioning like before your classes are you doing? Are you doing like shoulder circle kind of things, or do you have specific?
Yeah, I would say number one is movement, warming up the body, making sure the body is super warm before we do anything. So just movement. So movement, just warming up movement. And so I have concepts in that I showcase and teach people how to get their minds thinking different ways, and of course movement. And then we go into inversions, wrist and shoulder exercises, warm-ups, conditioning on top of that. And then there's just other things, but I make sure that warming up the body is number one. The body has to be awake, has to be warm. And then you know, when you go into more extreme movements, the joints, you got to condition the wrists, you got to condition the shoulders, you got to warm those things up. So warming up first, and then conditioning of the joints, and then all the inversions, and then putting them all together. So just hybrid, but yeah, get the body warm, man. Super important. You know, if your body's cold and you just, you know, jump into something's gonna snap. You know, more, you know, have to be warm. You know, I cannot stress enough, because going through years and years of pulling your groin and pulling something, those are your highest teachers, man. You know, it's like I always pull my groin for years. Just going to a club, super warm, jump into head spins, jump into flares, you know, because you're hype and something snaps, you're like, oh shit, and you're out for like 6 months, you know. So, you know, so that you learn, and haven't had an injury since that time. It's been like, I think like 15, 16 years, I've had no injuries, because I was educated about being mindful and stretching. So flexibility is really crucial in yoga. Warming up and being flexible is just a great plus to your practice. It's just a great plus.
Are you still going to yoga classes, or you just do your own thing?
I don't go to yoga classes as much. I kind of just do my own thing. You know, I kind of have the concept and foundation, and now I have my own CyberYoga thing, and that's just where I go now. I'm just not really. I'm not challenged enough in that department anymore. So I kind of just find my own ways and kind of just build on top of that. Not knocking, you know, whatever that is. It's just, I feel like I've reached a level where I can kind of, everything's automated on my own end as far as training and practice. Now I just know what I have to do, get in there, get the job done, and out. So.
And you're like, when you're talking about like the mindset and your like life coach, are you still like following this kind of blueprint where you're?
Oh yes, number one, all the time.
On it. Are you still learning from him? Or?
I feel like you're always a student in life, and there's always something more to learn. So I keep my mind in the constant state of like learning and absorbing. So I'm always listening to great people like Gary Vee. I listen to Tony Robbins. I listen to Brian Tracy. I listen to all the greats. You know, I'm inspired by the greats. I'm inspired by John Lennon. I'm inspired by Steve Jobs, Bruce Lee, Michael Jackson. All these influential, powerful people I'm inspired by, and there's little bits and pieces that I take from them, and I integrate it into my mindset and my lifestyle, and then I integrate that into my practice. So I'm always a student. Always a student, never a master is my belief. Like, you're always a student, and never settle, because you're never the best, and you never will be, because there's always going to be another level. And so with that mentality, I'm always going to be better than myself. So CyberYoga in 2020 will be better than CyberYoga in like 2014. You know, it's going to just advance itself, and so people will see the progress, and then I will teach that to other people, that anything is possible. And don't limit yourself, and and strive for greatness, and always believe that everything is possible. And you know what? Remain a student, remain a humble student in life, it's going to take you far.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like how you say like this, you just get like this downloads from the ether, like these ideas or these shapes or these things, and then you can go and then put it into this reality and make it work. So I know I think you got to kind of get going because you have this.
No, I got like another 30 minutes hour if you want, man. I'm good.
Okay,
I'm good.
cool. So when you're, I guess when you're going to like start off teaching somebody, I know it probably depends on, what can they already do, but
yeah,
like, how do you, if I go to you and I don't know any of it, like, where do we start?
Sure. The basics first, man. The very basic fundamentals, focusing on the basics, all the building blocks. And if you're not ready, then I'm not going to challenge you until you're physically and mentally ready. You can't force anybody to learn something that they're not ready for yet. So really focus on the building blocks and the foundation first. And then once you have the foundation, then you can always bend and break the rules. But that may take years. So it really all depends on your practice and your vision and your drive. Like if you're going to be doing the homework I'm showing you, then I'll see results. But I'm not going to force anybody that's not really ready. So just really focusing on the building blocks and the very basic fundamentals, getting those down first. Most people want to jump into the one arm and like they want to have the one arm first, before anything else. But it's like, nah, bro, like learn your foundations first. Because everything is reinforced. Having a solid handstand 30 seconds every time you go up first is fundamental before you start learning a one-arm handstand. It's like all those are very fundamental. Learning your basics first, then you break the rules.
What are the other fundamentals? So you have like,
oh my God, there's so many. There's inversions. There's tons of inversions. There's arm balances that's using the b-boy scene, and some that I create, and the transitions, and then that's not even including all the movement stuff that I show you. There's concepts within that world of like how to get your mind thinking about the possibilities of integrating and combining movements with the inversions and the arm balances, coming up and down, back and side. So you're covered in all dimensions, not just one way. Like you can go from a handstand to a headstand to a handstand to an elbow stand to a side chair, back up to handstand, then come down or backflip to something, to a flare. Like there's so many possibilities, and that's the b-boy concept. Like there's tools that there's tools that you have, and you play around with them and put them together, and they have to flow or whatever the way you want. But yeah, I just work with the very basics. Show the basics first, show you the foundations. But there's different departments, there's the movement department, which is important. Movement, knowing how to move out, move in out of your body, awareness of the body, knowing how to maintain your own movement and structure in confined spaces or big spaces. There's that, and then there's the inversions, and then the breathing, and then
what kind of movement? You keep saying movement. So what would some of those?
It's really hard to describe in person. I can't describe it in person. You would just have to see it. It's more of like, how can I describe it? I have different departments of movement. The CyberYoga movement would be something like a transforming spider, if you can like visualize something that, and then the movement will be kind of like, it's a concept that I coined called the liquid metal concept, based on the Terminator franchise, and basically like liquid and metal. So how would that look? So some movements can be really sharp and metallic and very precise, and then but at the same time it could be very, very fluid. At the same time, it could be fluid, but then it can transform into more solid structures. There's that, and then there's like a concept that I use called threading, and it's like weaving. So it's that concept, liquid metal threading, is what I would coin the term of my movement. Yeah, it's really, it's hard to describe, but if you see it, you'll understand what it is.
Yeah. Do you like teach people online, or is it all in person?
Um, I barely teach online. I'm really a fan of teaching in person, hands on. So you really understand, and I'm there with you physically, so you feel the energy like they're in person. As far as online, uh, not really. I mean, I have people that ask me to coach them in like handstands, which is great, but I feel like it's better for me to show them in person. But I will have ebooks coming out in the future that'll just break down like all the fundamentals of the handstand and all that. I can't do online as far as like inversions and handstands, but all the movement and most of all the in-depth stuff, I I don't know. I'd rather teach in person, like a workshop, or like hands-on. I feel like I really want to be there physically so they can feel the energy and the presence and really embody what I'm talking about. So, but it's possible. It's just, I don't know. I'm just more a fan of like organic teaching in person right then and there.
Yeah, I'd imagine it goes a lot. So I offer online training, but like in person, you can, I guess, kind of like with yours and the backflip. You're like, you couldn't do a backflip, and then somebody's like, "Oh, you just do like this and this," and then you went.
No, bro. Yeah.
And
You know
so,
what? You got to
maybe
be
if
there to
you're trying to do it online, maybe that's going to take you months of.
take
And
months.
then he can say, "No, just you got to tuck your knees in more, or like throw your head back more, or whatever." And they're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
got it," and then it happens
exactly.
right away.
Yeah, you know what? I could teach handstands and inversions fairly well online, but I just my honest opinion. Some things are better taught in person. But that's just my perspective. Yeah, but as far as like handstands and inversions, I can teach online, and I've had people ask me. Um, but I'm more of like, kind of like old school. Hey, let's set up a workshop or a private, get everybody together, and just go from there. Because I feel like they really can feel the energy there in person and really take away, and I can really focus on them in a different way. So
So, you're doing mostly just the in or privates and then workshops. You don't have like a regular weekly class, or is that too
no,
all over the place?
I don't. I would like to, and I have plans on focusing on having just one spot where people can come to. Um, that's the vision, is having one place where I teach and people can come there, and then eventually having dojos all over the globe. That's the vision I have. But everything is in its beginning stages now, so it'll be happening soon. So
Yeah, I might have to have you out to one of mine sometime. I mean, I'm in the middle
yeah, man, that'd be awesome, man. That'd be great.
because
That'd be
I
great.
think it's cool to have people that are doing all these different things, like I was saying, like with body weight. And so sometimes I like using equipment also. I like kettlebells. I like using stuff.
Yeah.
But just with like I was kind of like thinking about it, and I wrote out to like one of the instructors like an example of what I was going to do. And I was like, kettlebell stuff, but also I'm going to like Zen meditation, and I'm going to have like a couple different things. And then I just kind of got to thinking about it, and I was like, people are always like messing with stuff. It's like messing with their phone, and then messing with their computer, and then they're going to watch TV, and then they're going to play a game, and then there's always like messing with something. It's like, what if we just get rid of all of that, and all you have is yourself or your partner, your tribe of people, and it's like, what do you do without
What's gonna happen?
something? It's like, because once you have a kettlebell in your hand, there's a lot of freedom with kettlebells.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I like them, but you're also restricted because you got this kettlebell in your hand.
So true, man. So true. Yeah. I think that's a brilliant idea, man. Brilliant concept, man. Like, hey, put the tech away, put the equipment away, you and a partner or whatever, just see what happens, go from there. Everything else is a plus, but work on yourself and your structure and yourself first with somebody, and then see what happens. So yeah, I like that, man.
Yeah. Do you ever, you mentioned like martial arts, and like, do you ever like play like roughhousing games are getting popular again? Like, So like maybe like we're not going to actually spar, like we're not going to actually like hit each other or something, but we might play a game like maybe we're standing on a 2x4 that's just on the ground, and we lock arms somehow, or we can like we're not locked up, but we just like push or pull, and then we try to like push each other off the bar.
Oh,
Or maybe like a wrestling game where we're not trying to like win, but maybe we're just trying to like get both hands around the waist, or we're trying to like grab one leg, or it's like are you
I've
familiar
never.
with, like Rafe Kelly? Do you know who he is? Or
No, no, I've never heard of that before. I've never heard of that.
yeah,
But he does a lot of that.
yeah, he has a lot of cool games, and like where you might have like so maybe there's like so maybe another guy that's about my energy and stuff is like, you know, do you want to like spar or something? Yeah, we're into it, but maybe this like woman that's like 40 years same age as me or something like that. No, that's dangerous. But maybe we can play like a roughhousing game that she could like win. So like maybe she could push me off this thing. So it really thing because we like naturally as kids are always wanting to wrestle.
Yeah, it's true.
And or like you watch like wolf pups or lion, you have like the little lion cub,
And they want to roll around and wrestle and play. Yeah, yeah.
like he's not going to win that fight with his dad, but he might, like
Yeah.
dad might let him kind of get away with something. But I was kind of wondering because in your like when you're working with people, you're working with people that may be familiar with martial arts or like movement. And like I've seen like some of the break dancing or like b-boy stuff, it's like they have these battles where they're not
hurting each other, but they're just challenging each other through movement.
Yeah, so I was just wondering if you like tapped into any of that where it like looks almost like like I went to this ballet. It was a few years ago. I took my girlfriend at the time, and it was at Butler University, and I was like some of it was like this traditional kind of ballet, like, and then like there was one of it like where there was this guy dancing with a woman, and he was like being like aggressive with her. He was like snapping her around and stuff, like like it wasn't like. It was like jerky. I mean, it was like beautiful to watch, but it was a different kind of thing. Like
a different type of partnership.
Do you like take like some of the traditional stuff and like add? I mean, I know that's what you kind of been talking about, like your own spin on this stuff. But have you like gotten into? I guess I don't know if my exact question, but like I was just like seeing these. This artistic expression expressed as like maybe it looks like violence. It's not really violence.
Oh yeah, yeah. It actually makes sense. Usually in a dance company I'm in, we have exercises where they would say, "I want you to do a dance piece or do a dance movement, improvisation based on anger. How would that look? Channel your energy. Whatever makes you angry. Really focus on tapping into a part of your mind or your subconscious where you felt like a really dark or hurtful place, and then emote. How's it going to look? So we do those type of like exercises. It's that where you're channeling energy and then putting it into your movement. And there's one I did with a partner, a dude, and we were like, it was like, you're trying to get away from this guy and he's trying to kill you. How would that look? But I want you to structure your movement. So how would your spider movement look with this person trying to kill you and trying to get away? So it looked like jujitsu fighting, but not fighting, because I was like weaving through him and coming out of him, but still maintaining my structure and my movement, but then trying to get away from him when he has me in these holds the whole time. And so it was a beautiful thing. So as far as that goes, yeah, we do have those type of exercises where we kind of like play with emotions, anger, sadness, happiness. But yeah, we've done that. It's just like challenge yourself like mentally, different ways,
Yeah, it's really interesting concept of like the play fighting, like the rough housing. So there's like this study done on like rats or something like that, and they test like how hard will the rat try to play, and it's like they test it by how long it pulls on this spring. And so there's like this big rat, this older rat, and this young rat, and the young rat wants to play, but if the big rat doesn't let him win like 30% of the time, then the little rat doesn't want to play anymore. So they like even just as a rat, you would have to know that if he just wins every time, then it's different. That's like kind of like a bully. He can win sometimes. He can even win most of the time, but he has to let the little rat win sometimes. And it's just like something that I'm like thinking more about and
interesting.
Putting.
If the idea is there, man, use it. You know, integrate that concept into your practice, man. Like it's like there are no right or wrong ways to do anything. You know, it's about just doing it and see what happens. You know, like we're all, all these ideas are given to us for a reason. So if you really feel it, use it and see what happens. You know.
Yeah, it can be a really cool thing because people that like maybe I can work with somebody that's I've been doing martial arts for a long time, so I can work with somebody that is new at it, and they can still have fun and feel safe and all that. But I'm just kind of like trying to put that into other areas of fitness and what that can look like. So I teach kids classes and adults, and
awesome.
I teach at a wilderness survival school, and so I'm like the kids, like maybe we'll be outside and they'll be like shooting foam arrows at each other and stuff, and so you just kind of like see what they want to do and put it together. But I wanted to get back to yours. You said something about like gymnastics, and then the b-boy stuff. So there's like some overlap. But I've heard like some b-boys say like, okay, see if you have this good gymnast, he can go to the b-boy scene and he can do a lot of that stuff, but maybe they're like, that's too clean. We don't. What's that all about?
So basically, it's funny because everything's full circle. Okay, like b-boys adopted flares, inspired by Kurt Thomas or the Thomas flare. He's the one that created the flare, and b-boy started using it. But then a b-boy, well, I don't know who really started it first, but a b-boy back in the early 90s, early 90s, b-boy Pablo, rest in peace, he created the multiple air flares, and that was adopted by Mark Ham, and he was a famous gymnast, and he learned the concept of air flares, and he integrated it into a floor exercise.
Oh, cool.
And so once he did it in the gymnastics, a lot of the b-boys were kind of mad because Mark Ham wasn't saying, hey, like this was like, he called the air flare like the Mark Ham or something, and he didn't call it air flares at the time. So b-boys were kind of mad because he didn't really say, hey, this is called an air flare, and Mark Ham kind of say, hey, well, this is called the Haminator or something like that. And so b-boys didn't like that. It's like give credit where it's due. But gymnasts are amazing what they do, but I feel like b-boys, they really believe in style and character and not being so rigid and so robotic. So having a foundation, but then adding your flavor to it is the b-boy mentality and like lifestyles, like adding flavor to a move. It's like, it's not the move, but it's how you do it. So you know what? A gymnast can be technically trained and doing amazing power move combinations, but then b-boys would just have their own style and flavor, and just like most likely out of the gymnast because their minds are more open to possibilities. Then the gymnast is more structured and more rigid and just this and the only way. B-boys will have that concept of a flare, but they'll do it like 30 different ways with style. So that's how that kind of works, yeah, I think it's a friendly exchange, and there's nothing bad about having like a little bit of rivalry, but it's all beautiful. And like I said, it's all full circle. Like gymnasts inspired b-boys, and now b-boys inspiring gymnasts, and it's just a circle that's going to keep growing. And then, well, who knows what's going to happen? It's like now there's actually little girls and kids doing air flares. It's insane now. Like there's kids like 7 and 8 doing air flares now, and I can barely catch one. So I'm learning how to do air flares. I'm barely learning like one and a half. I'm like getting there, but it's insane where it is now, because now kids are learning how to do air flares. 8, 7 girls, even girls are doing air flare combinations. And so the gymnasts, yeah, they can do it, but right now the level's so high. I mean, it's stupid. I mean, there's guys doing one-handed air flares now, and now there's guys that are actually going for the double air flare. It's insane right now. The levels are insane. But yeah, it's all it's all love and healthy exchange.
Yeah, I think the b-boy stuff is more interesting to watch because of the style, where like the gymnast, like if their foot's not pointed right, that's a 1/10 of a point. They did this, that's another 1/10 of a point. And so they're kind of going for something that's
it's a different world,
somebody else's standard instead of their own thing.
Actually, I think now they're trying to introduce b-boying into the Olympics. I believe that's happening now, or they're working on it. And it was like a kids' youth Olympics breakdance. So they're actually trying to introduce that into the Olympics, which is, I think it's a great thing. I think it's, I'm sure the system has to still be tweaked, and they should allow like all ages and all genders into the sport, because hip hop itself is like it's for everybody. It's for every race. It's for every culture. It's for every size, gender. It doesn't discriminate. And I feel like they need to take that concept into the Olympics, because there's veteran b-boys that I looked up to, and they're like in their 50s and they're still breaking. So it's like there should be departments for all ages and all levels. So hip hop itself and breakdancing, it's a beautiful culture, man. And it's I'm a lifer in that scene, because it taught me so many different things, physically, mentally, and spiritually. It taught me so much of how to push yourself, believe that anything is possible. When I was learning head spins, I was like, I'm too long, I'm too skinny, there's no way I'll be able to do it, I'm going to break my neck. And I was like, one day I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to challenge myself and see what happens. Excuse my French, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to challenge myself and see if I can do it. And now I've been doing head spins for like 15 years, and I'm like, my head spins are nice. Same thing with flares. I've been trying flares, got that down. Hand balancing, I want to, I want to learn hand balancing. I got it. Flexibility, I was like, oh my God, I can never be flexible. That's impossible. I'm too old. Started taking yoga. Now I'm super flexible. And now, I want to get multiple air flares. Like that's my goal. Get air flares. And so right now I'm training air flares. So it's beautiful. I love the challenge, and that in itself is a discipline.
Yeah, it seems like there's this, like people are able to, like I look up to, like I'm 39, so I'm looking at like guys in the strength world that are 50, 60. Are they still like getting stronger in some ways? What are they saying about like injury prevention? Because they have the wisdom to look back and like, yeah, when I was 25, I was, I kept just wanting 5 more pounds on the bar, and I kept getting hurt. And so like I'm looking at these, and then like you're saying, like these younger people. So it's like younger and older, like it's like going both ways, where they're doing more. And so are you looking at like some of these older guys, and they're saying, are you getting your, like whether it's injury prevention or other like tips are you looking at guys that have been doing it longer, or?
That's an interesting question, Ryan. It's a great question. I feel like most of the veterans now, the b-boys now, they're beat up. Like their knees are shot, their shoulders are shot. They're probably not able to do a lot of things. There are a couple b-boys that I know right now that they're in their 50s, and they're still breaking, and they're still doing head spins. And it's only because they've adopted a certain lifestyle of longevity. Like that means eating right, that means drinking water, that means being mindful, that means taking care of yourself. And most of the guys that I was looking up to, they were amazing movers at the time, but now they're beat up, but they're still breaking, but they can't do as much as they can because they weren't mindful about their bodies, And so I was fortunate enough to be educated about wellness and taking care of yourself for longevity, because I want to break as long as I can. Like I'm gonna be 100 and still break. I don't care. I love it. It's my life. I just love it because I don't know. I just love it. Like it makes me happy. It taught me so many different things. It changed my life. It kept me alive. So I'm dedicated to this art forever. So I just wanted to make sure, hey, how can I keep dancing forever? And so I don't care what I did. I just focused on, okay, how can I keep doing it? So that means eating right. That means conditioning. That means yoga. That means whatever it is. I focused on that. And so now I'm like in between these like generations, because the younger generations have the youth on their side. So they're reckless and they're doing all these crazy moves. But when they get to a certain level in age, if they're not conscious, they won't be able to break as long. And then, most of the OGs, they're beat up, and they're done. But they still have the love and the drive to still break, but they're not able to do as much as they used to do. But then, there are some anomalies that were still kind of like conditioning, kind of like taking care of themselves, and they're older. So there's like 2 or 3 elders, OGs that are still killing it. And they're still doing all the moves that they're doing back in the day. Still doing windmills, they're doing head spins, clean, masterful. So yeah, it's about just being mindful, man, and being conscious about everything you do. You could be young and be reckless and throw crazy moves. Like, when I was younger, I was throwing like stupid stuff, and I didn't care about my body, but I was like hurt. I was like, nah, it's not worth it, just more about, being educated and being mindful and being conscious about your practice. If you really love something, you want to keep doing it. So you're going to find a way to keep doing it. And that means with, conditioning and longevity, you really have to take care of yourself.
Yeah. You mentioned diet a few times. Like what kind of diet do you follow? Is it something particular or?
Well, I was a vegetarian before, but it doesn't work with my blood type. So now I don't eat beef or pork. I eat chicken and fish. Just more like a light moderation. I'm not like diehard crazy about. I really believe that everything is based on blood type, man. Like everybody can't be a vegan, and then everybody can't be a vegetarian. Like everything is based on blood type. But for me, what worked for me, when I cut out the beef and the pork, I felt a complete difference in my body. I felt cleaner. I felt lighter. I felt more efficient. I had more clarity. That works for me. So, everybody is different. So you find out what works for you. Everybody's body is different. And that's, that's all I can say. I do a lot of juicing. A lot of juicing, a lot of greens. Just I don't eat I don't eat beef and pork anymore. Everything else I kind of do in moderation. Chicken and fish moderation, but no chicken, no beef and pork. So that works for me though. But everybody is different. So
you said blood type. How did you come up with that? Like, is it your?
I was recently educated about this book called Eating Right for Your Blood Type. And,
I think I have that. My mom gave it to me.
Yeah. I remember when I went diehard vegetarian for a year, got super sick, got super skinny. I was like, I was out of it. And so it got to the point where I had to go to the doctor, and she was like, oh, well, if you do all this extreme form of training, like you need to eat more meat. You're doing all this amazing stuff for your body. You need more protein. You need a lot more protein. And so I was like, okay, you know what? I got to eat more meat. And so that's when I started eating fish again, started eating chicken. I was still eating beef around that time, but I think it's been like almost a year that I've completely cut beef and pork out of my life, completely cut it. and I feel the difference in my body. It's amazing. But yeah, you know, blood type, man. Yeah. So she had told me, oh, you're a hunter gatherer, so your blood type is also, you know, you need meat. And I was like, okay, well, if I got to do it, I got to do it. You know, I did it. I went vegetarian for like, you know, moral and holistic and reasons, you know, like I want animals to suffer. I don't want to contribute towards that. But if it's going to impair my life and my training, then, you know, I got to balance it out. So
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, I quit eating meat about 25 years ago. I quit eating when I was 15, and then about half that time is vegan, including up to now. Mm-hmm. And then so it's like for all kinds of reasons, like the moral reason, like you said, I didn't want, you know, have the animals killed and
yeah, I'm not down with that.
But then other people will say, like the girl that I'm seeing, she was vegan and she wanted to be vegan, but like you were saying, like it just wasn't working for her, and so she had to switch back. So she would like to be a vegan, but it just flat out doesn't work. And I think I found that like respecting animals can look different to different people. So I'm a vegan, but I work at a wilderness survival school. That's where I teach my classes, and so there's you know, there's skulls and there's animal skins there and there's hunters there. And I find like in some ways I can get along better with the hunters, like these people that understand animals and understand nature better than like some vegans who might be
diehard and
like the preachy kind. And I was the preachy kind.
Yeah.
I mean, a long time ago, but now I see it like respect. It looks different. And if you ever hear like Joe Rogan explains it pretty well, it's not how I see it, but I can see other people say it, like when he's out hunting elk or something like that, he's like, this animal is, you know, I can either hit him with my arrow or, you know, somebody's going to shoot it. And it's like 6-7 years old. It's like, they're only going to live to be like 8 years old. And then they're going to get torn up by wolves. It's going to be horrible.
Yeah.
And so they can pick them off. It's going to die. It might take a little while for it to die, but they, you know, it's like, it's going to die anyway. And it's,
it's interesting perspective on that, you know, like, you know, as my guy taught me, that everything is all perspective. And you know, what Joe Rogan is talking about is a very unique perspective, you know, so I can understand his perspective, so it makes sense, you know.
Yeah, and it's just like the owner of where I work, the wilderness school. It's like it would be kind of just like wrong and incorrect for me to think that I respect animals more than him. Like, yeah, I don't kill animals, and he does, but that doesn't mean he doesn't respect them.
Yeah.
You know, it's just different. It just looks like
interesting. That's an interesting viewpoint about what you had said about Joe Rogan. It's really interesting that it's going to get slaughtered by wolves, and it's going to suffer a lot more by wolves than if I just shoot it and I'm actually using the meat for something. So it's interesting. It's interesting perspective. You know, everything boils down to perspective. At the end of the day, it's about that. You know, and interesting.
Yeah, well, I'm about out of questions for you. You said you had about a half hour, and that was about a half hour ago.
Cool.
Are there like how can people can find out about you and
find out about me?
Yeah.
On my social media information, you can find me on instagram.com/cyberyoga. I'm going to be working on my new website, so that'll be up soon, but I have a site. It's cyberyoga.la or cyberyoga.com. And those are the best ways to get in contact with me. I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/cyberyoga, instagram.com/cyberyoga, and cyberyoga.la or cyberyoga.com, because the website is going to be shifting from cyberyoga.la to cyberyoga.com. And
I really appreciate you coming on the show. I knew, like as soon as I looked at your Instagram, that you'd be a good guest, and I was right. So
thank you so much, Ryan. Yeah, man. Thank you so much, man. You know, it's an honor, it's a pleasure, and thank you for the consideration and, you know, allowing the time in your platform. So I'm happy to share. Thanks for having me.
All right, I'll give you the last word. What do you want to leave people with?
Just say that believe in yourself and know that remain a humble student in life. You're never a master, always a student, and be the change that you want to see in the world. That's it, man.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good place to end it. So thanks
Yeah.
again for being on. I'm going to stop the recording and I'll talk to you for a minute after we stop.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.